to mark the bust darts, all you need to do is get a sharp pencil and a ruler and go from the outside edge of your corresponding colour and size to the centre of the cross here, and draw that line lightly onto the paper pattern, and then again from that point to the outside of that notch, like so, and then you've got a clear line ready to cut. You could use the traditional method of sewing some tailor tacks to transfer the line of the dart through to your garment, but one of our favourite time-saving tips is simply to get your paper scissors, and you're only cutting the paper, so just lift it slightly. I've removed the pin so I can lift the pattern slightly. Cut along the bottom edge of the dart to the point, like so, and then fold it back on the other pencil line. So you can just check for accuracy. Simply fold it back, so you're only harming this little part of the pattern, and it comes back to shape anyway afterwards. And then with your tailor's chalk, or with a light pencil if you prefer, you can now go in and simply mark that line. So use the flat edge of your tailor's chalk. You don't use it like a pencil with a tip, else it breaks off. You use the flat edge, and you can go in and draw that line, and the same along the top. And then when you lift the pattern off, your dart is there ready to sew. What you then just need to do is unpin, if you've got all the other markings that you need, unpin the paper pattern and flip the top over, lift the pattern on top and draw in on the other side with your chalk. The notches on the Riley pattern are formed by these lines here, so before you lift the paper pattern off again, go in with some sharp small bladed scissors and just make a little snip, not the full length of the notch but just at the end like this, so that you can see where that is, and the same here. Basically you don't want to snip too deep, because in effect you're cutting into your seam allowance, and on this pattern in most places it's 5/8 of an inch, but you don't want the snip from the notch to come too close to where your stitch line will be. I'm beginning to stitch at the widest part of the dart. I've got my needle in. I'm going to set off. I'm going to do a reverse stitch. It says in the booklet you want a stitch length for this of 3.0, no smaller, so you get a nice flat row of stitching. And then I'm working my way along the line that I've marked, the chalk line, and removing the pins as I go. I don't sew over pins, I know some people do. And where people get nervous is as they start to get to the narrow point of the dart. I really like having this pin stuck out here so that I've got a really clear guide where I'm wanting to come off. I'm going to try and do a reverse stitch before I come off so that the dart is secure, but if you feel more confident to just come off the fabric, then I'll show you what to do in a moment. So I'll come to here and I'm going to do a reverse stitch at this point. I'm going to remove the pin and then I'm going to just come right off the edge of the fabric like so. Release the presser foot and give yourself a length of thread, so rather than snipping it too close, and then for extra security, if you like, you can then just knot off this thread here a couple of times and snip, and then you've got a really nice secure bust dart. When you're pressing a dart, it's really useful if you can have something shaped underneath, and so you can run the pointed end of the dart off the end of it, and then you don't end up with a crease like this at the end. You can use a tailor's ham, which is this. It's sturdy, it's filled with sawdust. You can buy them in haberdasheries, or alternatively roll a towel or something just to give you that shape, and then lay the dart on the top with the edge of the dart coming off the end, and we're going to press this bust dart downwards. So you can see at the end here, it then matches the side seam. So first of all, with the toe of the iron, you're going to go in and set the stitches along here. I always use a pressing cloth just to protect my fabric. So I've wrung this out until it's not dripping, but it's damp. And I'm just going to lay that just over the stitches and press gently with the toe of the iron along the stitch line, right off the edge of the curve, like so. What you don't want to do is press the entire dart flat, because if you do, this crease here is going to come through onto the right side of your fabric. So just be mindful to just press the stitches. And when I've done it on the wrong side, I then turn it over again, just turn it round so that the point of the dart is beyond the edge of the tailor's ham. And then I'm going to do the same and just press in the stitches from the right side as well. So it's slightly covered for you guys because I'm using the pressing cloth, but you can see the movement that I'm trying to achieve, like so. And then just let that dry out a little bit, especially if you're using a different fabric, because you're putting shape into it. If you've created steam when pressing, just let it cool before you move on to the next dart. And a good top tip I was taught by my teacher Anne Labrie was that a well-pressed dart doesn't cast a shadow on the right side of your garment. So if it's still looking like you can see a shadow in there, just give it another little press. Obviously some fabrics will press more easily than a heavier, bulkier fabric.